me again. I'm back. It's been a little bit. So today what I want to talk about is black hypergamy channels, especially the black femininity hypergamy channels. In the past, when I was still in the closet, I was trying to figure out, it wasn't even like that, honestly. Okay, so back a couple years ago when I was still in the closet, I was very, very interested in these type of channels because I've never been very feminine. It's not really something that is like a thing for me. So people have always told me I have a masculine personality or a dominant personality. This has been like for the majority of my life for people who were close to me. Now, masking and, presenting a certain way in front of family members, I don't think they would have noticed. But I fell into this rabbit hole when I was like 16, 17 of several YouTube channels that talk about hypergamy. Now, I already know I wasn't really attracted to men. It was more like, oh, I can get a beard, and if I have a beard, then at least they'd be wealthy type of thing. So as I got older, I kept watching these channels, and I realized the narrative that they push as well as the message that they push is not really beneficial for most black people, especially femme-presenting black people. Getting back to the point, I was like in this rabbit hole, and as I got older and I learned about like what incels are, what hoteps were, I just realized it was like that, but for like, I'm not gonna say gold digging, but the message was very weird. As the more I supported these channels, the more like I would watch their live streams, it wasn't that they hated any group specifically, it was just like a heavy disdain. So as I kept watching them, I was like, this advice, now that I'm thinking about it, really isn't that good. Like, they're telling you to go certain places and meet certain people and do certain things, and they're like, oh, me personally, I've never had this issue. Like, I have this partner, I have that partner. And the real thing that like made me lose interest in them is I realized most of them only wanted to cater to specifically like femme-presenting cis black women. So I was watching several of the channels and they kept saying, okay, now to get all those transgenders out of here, or to get all those X minority group out, this is only for black women. And I was like, oh, so you guys aren't like inclusive. I thought this was like just general life advice stuff. And I realized a lot of these people have like very radical beliefs. And it's sad that I didn't notice it sooner, but I was also really young and impressionable. So it made me lose interest in them. So the topic of this video, after ranting for a little bit, is just talk about why these channels suck and why you shouldn't watch them. The first reason for me personally is they are going to put you down. They're going to tell you you're not good enough as you are. You need to change whatever you do and be more like them. They're like, oh, you need to do your hair this way. You need to walk this way, dress this way, smell this way, act this way. Speak less, be more demure, exude feminine energy. All these like very toxic patriarchal views. And yeah, that's just like not very conducive to self-growth, because you're always going to be questioning yourself in the back of your mind. Say you do date a guy and you follow what they want to get this man. This man is not going to see you as equal. He's going to see you as like a puppet or a baby breeder. So, sorry. That's reason number one. Number two, these channels are going to critique and judge certain people who live a certain lifestyle. Now, they'll come after the dusties, which I don't really mind because that needs to be something that's called out. But they'll also call out you. Say you dated somebody and they swindled you, or they changed their behavior, or you were coerced into something and you ended up with a baby. They'll be like, oh, your value is less. Like, you need to protect your womb, as if you only have value if you don't have kids. I don't want kids, don't yearn for kids, but for people who have kids and they got those kids under dubious situations, it's kind of weird to judge them. And when you make such poignant statements, you can't really retract or take it back for certain people. It's just not good advice in general. Number three, they're mostly homophobic and also transphobic. So these people are like hoteps, but they put a spin on it. It's like how like Crunchy Moms, there's like an alt-right pipeline for that. It's similar to that with like hoteps and black femininity channels. Now, I used to follow about 4 of these different channels. I would watch their live streams, engage with them, and I would just ask questions. Like, I followed a bunch of them for a really long time, but as they kept getting more and more like hateful, I stopped following them. But there was one channel that I was hanging on to because I'm like, okay, she's never said anything toxic about queer people, she's never done this, she's never done that. So I just asked the question because she was praising this other channel that I had unfollowed years ago, and I was just like, hey, I stopped following this person. I didn't even say it. I was like, a letter with asterisks after, and immediately afterwards she got very angry. She's like, oh, listen, if you don't support this person, you're not welcome on my channel or something like that. So I was like, okay, I'll just unsubscribe, and I left after that. And it was just like very awakening for me, and I realized like there's many people like myself who follow these channels and don't realize how toxic and narrow their world viewpoint is. And it's just really sad, because at the end of the day, we're also a minority, so looking down on other people isn't really going to benefit you. Like, a lot of the messages they said were really, really good. So say like solidarity, right? Intersectionality is very important. You have many identities. Those identities should work together. But they're not really promoting that message. They're like, oh, we should only worry about ourselves, and if any other group is in trouble, be quiet because they won't stand up for us. And for a really long time, I was like, yeah. But then I was like, that's not really gonna help, you know, like a rising tide lift all boats. So it was just very sad for me. I'm like, oh, so we're not gonna care about any other marginalized group? I was like, this is not really a good rallying call. Like, your rallying call is basically the same as like white eugenicists, where they're like, oh, we need to purge everyone else in ours. Just be pure. So it seems like they don't like anyone who's not like a cis black woman who's child-free or married. And it's just like so sad to have that message. Moving on. Reason number 4, you should not be valuing your self-worth or approval on someone you don't know who's telling you to live a certain lifestyle in order to be approved and or valued by them. It's just not sustainable. Like, you're creating this toxic codependent relationship where you're going to end up like a stan or something who will only make their life judgments or choices based on this person who has outreach for you. And number 5, the last reason is just that type of mentality does not work. It's going to keep getting more and more narrow, where people are going to keep getting excluded, and they're only going to have one type of person who's available to be in their group, which is a straight size cis black woman with 4C hair who is just like very like low self-esteem and high thirst for like a dude. And I know that these type of channels, they come after their haters or whatever, but I followed most of them for a really long time, and then I like realized this is not healthy. They don't like people like me, so why would I continue to support them? Like, being queer, I'm not even a woman, so it's just like, what is the point of me watching these channels? And I hope that other people can realize that too. This isn't the first time I tried to make this video. I tried to make it before, but I realized like my talking points were the same, but they were more all over the place. So I was also manic at that time, so I was like, oh, let's bring it back in and make it more straightforward. I'll probably include subtitles and stuff in this too. I also wasn't in my right mind, because that's when I got the flu and I didn't realize I had the flu. That month was terrible, so that's also part of the reason why I didn't upload for a while. I had a cold, recovered, got the flu, recovered, and then got COVID. So it's like back to back to back. So the whole month I was completely out of it, delirious. I was sleeping like 15 hours a day. I had to go to the ER and get that what is it called? It's like an antiviral for COVID. It was a lot. It was a lot, but afterwards, like, I finally recovered, got back to work, everything was great. So what I want to tell you, person who's probably watched until this point, is you are enough. You should not be on these channels that are just putting you in this sunken cost mindset where it's like, oh, I'm black and I'm whatever, so I need to make sure that my points line up like ducks in a row for this person in order to feel valued or feel self-worth. I just don't think it's healthy, and it's also not good for us as a collective to just pedestalize these people who are like hell-bent on ripping other people down and lowering their status and their self-worth. Okay, so hypergamy, I do think it has its value, but if you're listening to the tips that these people are giving you, it's just not realistic. Say you go to one of these mixers or whatever events. When I was still in America and I was dating this person, we went to, this person, he also came from like a wealthy family background. I was still in the closet. Anyway, we went to this golf club, and when we walked in there, let me tell you, everybody was looking at us like we were crazy. So these people know that you will not belong. And even if you're the help, it's kind of like how people viewed staff. Well, they still view staff. They view you as like subhuman. So it's not very likely you'll find a partner there. And if you do, they're not going to want good things from you. Like, I'm pretty sure you guys have been on Reddit before, and if you ever see Reddit, they're talk about people who date up or whatever, that person will always remind them like, no, you're going to give me babies, you're going to do this, like, your job is this, this, and this. So you're not really going to be seen as a human, so that's why I don't think that this type of stuff is actually beneficial. The other thing is, like, femininity is also very an abstract concept. Like, anyway, it's a spectrum from masculinity to femininity, everything outside of it, things inside of it. So it's not really realistic to be like, oh, to be highly feminine, I need to check off all these boxes. It's just not realistic. So say, to be feminine, basically, you need to be demure, you need to keep your head down, you need to know your place and do all these other stuff. So it's just like very like trad wife type messages, and I just think it's just not very good. Anyway, I'm not going to call out any specific users because I don't want the drama, but I'm saying for like people who are feeling that type of way about these channels or are questioning things, like just know that you're enough. These type of channels are not good for you or your lifestyle. So I'll just say, after everything I talked about today, please, 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 if you're hearing stuff that's making you feel questionable, like, or you're like, oh, this doesn't sit right with me, I don't want to change this, I don't want to do this, just know that like you can back out, you can leave, you don't have to believe in this stuff, you can always leave. You don't have to support these people, you don't have to send them your money. Like, there's so many channels I used to watch when I was still in high school, and there's this one channel, I'm not going to say who it is, but they were like very toxic, they got very big, and they were always yelling at their fans, complaining to their fans, doing all this other stuff. It was like very, very crazy, and it cut off. So we'll continue. What I'm going to say is like these channels can be very, very toxic. They have certain viewpoints, and those viewpoints may or may not benefit you. So it's better to just leave that stuff alone. And these big channels, you'll notice like the way they talk to you or treat you, or you feel a certain way from watching them, just stop. You don't have to support these people. No matter what they say, no matter what they try and guilt out of you, you can leave at any time. It's just a superfluous relationship. It's literally not real. And you don't have to support these people. Like with online creators, that relationship is not real. Even like people who like me, like if you like my videos, good for you, but also it's not that deep. Like you don't know me, like I'm maybe different on and off camera, and it's just not that point of being around that. So what I'm going to say is, next time I'm going to talk about my list, expanding horizons and avoiding radicalization and intersectionality. I'm really, into this topic, so I want to make like a decent video about this. It's not like a video essay, once again, it's just like me saying my feelings to the camera. Yeah, so for now I'll say bye and see you another time. Peace.